Hello, 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 my fellow burnt-out besties. Welcome to Sass and Small Talk. I am your host, Deb Bellino of Sass and Smalls, coming to you from the creative hub of all creative hubs, the glorious artistic space that is House of Owl Studios, my home away from home, nestled in the core of our beautiful city, Victoria, BC. I would like to take this opportunity to humbly acknowledge the Esquimalt, Songhees, and Masonic nations, past and present, on whose traditional territories of the Algonquin-speaking people we learn, we live, and we work. The guests that I've invited to participate in this series offer an abundance of knowledge and insight and want nothing more than to help us, yes us, get that sass back. I need my sass back. Oh, you too? Well, if you want that chaos to be a thing of the past and you're ready to get back some of that sass, I got you. Hey, I'm Deb, host of Sass and Small Talk, reclaiming the joy of parenthood beyond burnout. As a mom of two smallies, juggling all the things from caregiving for elderly parents as an active member of the sandwich generation, homeschooling, while navigating special needs. With my own neurospicy brain, I'm no stranger to caregiver and parenting burnout. Through this lived experience, I've met some of the most amazing local parents and experts within my own community of Victoria, BC. They'll share real stories of isolation, loss of self, and burnout, and how they found renewed purpose, all while embracing the chaos that is our lives. So, join us here at House of Owl. Take a seat, grab your poison, and let's talk. Darling, I need my sass back. Today's guest is one I've been looking so forward to having here, coincidentally, so has my husband. When we talk about burnout, in many, not all cases, the experience and the topic of parenting and caregiver burnout is often associated with the primary caregiver, notably mama, or is expressed from a mom's perspective. But where do the dads fit in this picture? With cultural norms and societal biases that sadly still exist today, the role of dad, or the partner that is not considered the primary caregiver, is often seen as secondary. But Graham is here to refute and challenge these biases by changing the narrative. He's here to advocate. He's here to empower and teach dads and partners at the onset of parenthood, and even well before that, with tools and knowledge to equip them with what's to come and how to thrive and not just survive this wonderful thing called parenthood. I stole that from him. He's got some good quotes, so get your pens out. Okay, Graham Meckling. He is an author, an educator, a community builder, and a coach. He resides with his wonderful wife and girlfriend, Michelle, of 17 years. I love that. Blessed with two children who are 8 and 5 years, and you'll see just how much he loves being their dad. He is a former award-winning restaurateur, and let's talk about that book. He is also an award-winning author of Babies Don't Talk, where he shares honest insights for new and expecting dads that build a solid and strong foundation for fatherhood from a dad's perspective. He's the founder of TRUEDAD.CA, an online community which builds solid foundations for new and expecting parents. So we'll definitely be digging into that. But fatherhood and babies aren't the only thing in this family man's repertoire. He is also a talented musician. He gave me a little concert earlier today. And as you may have already guessed, he has owned a couple restaurants. How many people can say that? He is probably the most positive person I've ever bumped into. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that he lives his life spreading some of that positive light and energy in this kind of jaded world, one hug at a time. And it's true, his hugs are the real deal. If his name seems familiar, it probably is because you've heard it before. He won the Restaurant of the Year for Stage Wine Bar 2 consecutive years by Vancouver Magazine. Fun fact, this is very fun. He fell backwards into an indoor pool at his very first gala that he's ever attended. Was it nerves? Was it the bubbly? We'll have to find out. My burnt out besties, I am super, super duper thrilled to introduce to you our very first dad here on Sass and Small Talk, who makes it very clear he is not a perfect dad because, P.S., perfection does not exist, but he sure is a good one. My friends of the pod, Graham Meckling.
Oh, lovely to be here. Thank you so much. Wow.
Hi, Graham.
I've never been
How are
introduced by
you?
anyone for anything, so that was quite lovely.
Oh, you should be.
Lovely.
Welcome, welcome. And we're so excited to have you here. It's a real treat to have, a male perspective, kind of for once, when it comes to parenting. It's usually kind of secondary to mama when we talk about kids. But I am proud to say when we had this opportunity to do this show, you were top of mind. You were actually recommended to me, and I checked you out on the gram, and I was hooked. He's amazing. So welcome.
Great to be here.
Happy
Absolutely
to have
great to
you
be here.
So I have my copy of Babies Don't Talk, which I ate right up. It was so good. And now I'm done, so it's going right to my husband's nightstand. So many goodies. I wish I could just read the whole thing here for the episode, but alas, let's talk about it. I think it's better to talk about it. I know that we do talk about caregiver burnout and parenting burnout and all that. So what does his book about new parenting and being a new parent, what does that have to do with parenting and burnout, right? So here's the thing. New parents also experience burnout. Hello. And I assure you, much of what he says, the little goodies that he has in this book, can absolutely be applicable to all stages of family life. So would you be okay if I read a couple excerpts?
Fire away. Let her
Stuff that really stood out to me. All right. Babies Don't Talk. It's story time. I'm just going to read a couple excerpts, the ones that really stood out to me. So many dads recall how they felt so insecure around mom and baby, and that it felt better to be at the office or getting groceries because they felt they were contributing somewhere, even if it wasn't at home. Of course, mom is still at home with the baby and feeling the weight and responsibility of being the one to do everything. And then before you know it, the dreaded me versus you scale comes out. So we'll be talking about that. I love this book because he has these, for someone like me who's always on the go, I love to kind of get a little bit of a Coles Notes version on the right side of the book. So I do love it. Such an easy, fun read and so much good stuff in it. Another one I really love. This is a really good one. Okay. Hug and do it for 30 seconds. I love this. This is one that both partners need to be prepared for. If someone is genuinely hurt and angry, it can be challenging to accept a hug. Use this method by asking for a deep breath for you and your partner. Next, acknowledge that the tension is more than likely due to exhaustion and not what's being argued about. Finally, ask for the hug and don't let go. Take 10 seconds to let the tension subside, 10 seconds to say, I'm sorry. And we know that doesn't exist for most households. You can't do it in 10 seconds. Most people take days. And 10 seconds to squeeze a little tighter and let it all go. I absolutely love this. And one more thing that I love. Got 5 minutes, give 5 minutes. This is something that absolutely can be applicable. This is one of those things that stuck like glue from my restaurateur days. The day team sets up the night team and vice versa. It's always hard to start your shift if you have to spend the first part getting set up. When it comes to parenting, this one feels like magic. If you find yourself with a free 5 minutes, stock up the baby bag, fold some laundry, do some dishes, prep a meal, write a love note. I love that. I mean, if that is not breaking it down, I don't know what is. I absolutely love it. So can we talk about this book?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Author, let's talk about the inspiration behind Babies Don't Talk.
It's very, very simple. I know that I was lucky and blessed to be born into a great family, right? Absolutely loving parents, loving brother and sister. And I knew from a young age that what I wanted to do was not be a architect or an astronaut, but was to be a dad. It just seemed like the greatest thing to have. And not so much a dad because my dad himself was great, which he was, but it was more of like being a part of that family unit where it's what you're raising together, right? What we did together. And so all I want to do is be a dad. So I go through life bragging about, I can't wait to be a dad. I love kids. And then didn't meet my wife till I was 30. And then we didn't have babies till I was in my mid-40s. And I remember when she showed me the pregnancy test, I had that moment that people talk about where your life sort of freezes for 1 second. And I looked at her and I went like, oh, wait a sec. Oh, it's all happening to you. Like it's nothing, none of it's happening to me. That's weird. And then I was kind of like let down by that for some odd reason.
Oh,
And then the next part was you get filled with all the opposite of what I expected, right? I expected joy, excitement, passion, all these things to bubble up. But what really hit me was I didn't know anything. I felt super insecure. I felt pretty dumb for just, quite frankly, being so excited to be a dad and knowing nothing at this
oh,
point. And so I realized, well, man, if that was me, someone who's coming from this amazing life and this amazing background, what if you aren't? Like, what if this is sort of not your nature to be a dad, or it's just something that you're going to be doing? I just wanted to write like a little 10-page handbook. If I saw a dad on the street, I'd be like, "Hey, man, here you
oh,
go. Here's some
that's
real
awesome.
stuff that's going to happen to you." You know?
That's so on
Um,
brand.
yeah,
Like you just want to put little notes together.
yeah. I just want to give someone a hug,
I
right? Because
love
you realize how
that.
hard it is,
Yeah.
but most importantly, I asked myself like, well, why am I here? Like, how am I in this position if this is what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
And then I just realized people don't teach the hard stuff, right? We don't teach long-term relationships. We don't talk about sex, driving, whatever's hard, and parenting is especially hard.
Mm,
It's because it's hard to say, well, I wasn't very good at it, but listen to this and this,
yeah.
right? Just like my dad was an amazing dad, but not once did he sit me down and say, hey, son, now that you're pregnant, let me explain to you how the next couple of years are going to go, because it's hard. And so
Yeah.
that's what the book is. It's really honest, practical things that apply to everyone, no matter what, no matter race,
Absolutely.
religion, anything. It just sort of tells you about what's coming in a real way.
I absolutely love that you were inspired by your own experience of wishing the
Mm.
resource was there, so you
Yeah.
provided it. So it became a full-blown book from the little, stapled notebook.
Yeah, it did. Well, you realize how quickly men like to consume information in small bits, right? I don't want to be preached to if it was me, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to get a huge textbook of all the things that you're supposed to know, because when you find out you're pregnant, there's a couple of realities. Is that
Yeah.
number one, you're not a doctor, and number
Yeah.
two, you're not a therapist, right? And those
Right.
are the two main things that you need to be worried about. And so the overwhelm of like uh, getting something so beautiful and precious as a little baby to take home
Yeah.
after 2 days, like here's your human, see you later, out of the hospital you go.
It's
I
crazy.
know it's crazy for anyone that hasn't done it. When you look in the back seat and you're like, they just gave us that
I'm
to take home.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as
Uh,
well, there isn't,
yeah.
you're right, they're so right, especially for dads. There
Yeah.
really isn't that much resources out there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like what to expect when you're expecting and all that fun stuff that everyone hears about.
Hmm.
But what about that quick, easy read handbook?
Yeah.
From a really casual tone, which I really liked. You have a very approachable, welcoming tone. Like, I got you.
Hmm.
I was you. I am you.
That's it, right? You're just trying to explain to people because nobody can explain to you what it's like to have a baby till you have one, right?
Yeah.
We could spend 5 hours talking about it to someone sitting right across from you, like this is what you should
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
But you can't live those feelings until you are looking at your child, or you
Yeah.
can't understand the stress it impacts on your relationship when you're not prepared for what's coming. Like if you
Right.
know what's coming a little bit, it makes it way easier, right?
Right.
If someone's like, "Hey, it's gonna take you an extra half hour to get to work today because the traffic is bad," you're like, "Okay." When you hit the traffic, you're like, "Yeah, here it is. It's not so bad." But if you didn't know,
Yeah.
you just turn the corner and it's gridlock. Then you
Right.
get angry and frustrated, and So I think it's just it's it's partly just the way it's been. We've done so great with so many social issues, but the
Yeah.
family dynamic is in the 50s, right? If the dad's there, great, and if he's not, well, it's okay. But I think
Yeah.
what we know about mental health now, we know that although the dad's not having a baby physically,
Yeah.
mentally his brain's on fire, the relationship is getting strained, and
Absolutely.
everyone needs some support. Yep.
Absolutely. You're so right. I love, and it's coming from your perspective, so it really is something special to you. It's very profound, and
Mm.
you understand it. It's not like a mom writing it from her perspective of what she thinks a dad would experience.
Yeah.
This is absolute, like, firsthand knowledge, which I love. So, um, let's tie it back into why you're here. We are talking about burnout with parenting and caregiving, but just parenting burnout alone. What's your understanding of burnout? Have you ever experienced it?
Yeah, I know we've talked before, and I think burnout is it's an interesting thing. People sort of think that burnout happens after you've been going like 100 miles an hour, then all of a
Hmm.
sudden you hit a wall and that's it. But
Yeah.
burnout can be like a slow burn too, right? And I think that's um, why I think it's so important, and I'm so thankful for you to have me here, is that a lot of women or just caregivers, the one who's having the baby,
Yeah.
don't really end up just taking the brunt of all the stress and the weight of what they need to do on their own shoulders. And because a man or the other partner doesn't know where to fit in the beginning, you feel like you're raising the baby and teaching your partner at the same time, right?
Right.
And that can be super overwhelming. And what I think burnout
100%.
is, or how we need to look at it, is sort of what my book is based on, is the fundamentals that happen to everybody. If you're if you're communicating with your partner all the time, if you're hugging, if you're trying to have a positive pregnancy and a positive childbirth, and you're both in it together, you're both involved and committed, then burnout is going to be pushed way back. The reason that burnout happens usually is because you're not really talking about what you really need. You're not getting the support that you could easily just ask for. We always want to try and tough things out. We can do it on our own.
Yeah.
And the more you take a look at like parenting as a whole, as a unit, like,
Yes.
it's not just mom versus dad.
Yeah.
It's all of us in it together. Burnout can be at least helped.
Yeah.
Not prevented
supported.
totally, of course, because your
It'll
bodies go through
happen.
things, but having the
Yeah.
support makes it a whole lot easier to realize you're in it and easier to get out of it.
And I really love that idea of we talked about this too, is that taking the me and the I in burnout and kind of making it a we. This is our burnout.
Yeah.
We are experiencing burnout as opposed to I am experiencing carrying it all on
Totally.
yourself.
Yeah. Oh, it's family unit. That's, I think, from an early onset. That's why the book, or information, pardon me, not just my book, anyone's book, just
Yeah.
information into a couple's hands early
Mm-hmm.
just prepares you for what you're going through, right? Where
Yeah.
you start saying the words like, and we say the word team all the time, or family
Right.
unit, right? Because it really is a team. There's nothing more team oriented than a family. You're all in it together. One person suffers, everyone suffers.
Yeah.
One person's doing great, it lifts up everybody. So
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think, this happened, like for me, I personally went through the burnout. I was physically, and I was kind of displaying the signs of burnout first, or overtly, I guess. And I felt quite isolated and alone. And then once I opened my mouth and I said, I think I'm experiencing something kind of burnout-ish. Like I'm not knowing what's going on, but it's not looking good. And he goes, yeah, I noticed that too. I'm also feeling it. You mean you're feeling it individually? This is what my husband's saying. I'm asking him, are you feeling it? He goes, well, that too, but I'm feeling your burnout. And right there, he lifted a part of my burnout. He
Sure.
took it on, and he, as it became a we, an our burnout thing. And so I like that the family can kind of step in and go, we are having burnout. Let's see the source. Let's work on fixing that burnout or supporting that burnout.
Yeah, that's
As a
exactly
unit.
it. Yeah, I mean, there's a great proverb: a problem shared is a problem halved, right? If
Yes.
it's your burden, it just feels so overwhelming. As soon as you just say it out loud, and we talked about trauma, right? How they say when you go through a traumatic experience, you need to talk to 3 people about it in 48 hours, right?
I love that. See, I
And-
didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think parenting is trauma, right? You go.
It is.
I mean, just to be given something so drastically that affects every
Yeah.
part of your life is intense.
Yeah.
And we just all take it inside, right? We don't talk about it. And just talking about being a dad or being a parent is like it feels so good just to share that, like, these are my experiences, to know somebody else has had them. It really makes the problems not so bad. And I think we often feel like we have to have these problems with parenting. I have to have this struggle. I have to have.
It's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I have
and
more problems than you,
Oh,
and
I know.
let me tell you a story about how hard it's been.
That's so true. And I think it's so detrimental. You'll see one dad
Yeah.
who's gone through this pain and suffering,
Yeah.
seeing another dad pushing a stroller and be like, that guy's screwed. Look at him go. Instead of being like, hey, man, how you
Said,
doing today? You
"Let's
doing all right?
talk." Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so true. And the faster you can say, the more you communicate, just the infinitely easier all things become.
Absolutely. And there's something that a friend of mine does with her husband. And so we started to adapt it. I'm a numbers person, and I like to measure things out. Not measure, but I like to explain things based on numbers. And I never realized you can kind of check in with yourself, which has never been a problem for me. I can check in with myself, but I kind of forget to check in on everyone else other than my kids, of course. Kids are part of us. So we just kind of like go, oh, I'll check in on you. I forget about my husband sometimes. And this whole numeric system, it's like a percentage to measure like where I'm at. So I'll have days like, ideally, we want to say, 50-50. I feel pretty 50% today, or 100% even. You feel 50%, great, we're good, we're coasting. And then there are days when I'm like, I'm about 40%. I need you to be a little bit 60% today.
Yep.
And it really does boil down to numbers. We also have the visuals, right? Like the kids are like, I'm hitting the red zone. But we say that too, but that's still a little bit obscure, right? Like I really am putting numbers to it. And there are days when I'm like, I'm extra. I'm extra. We know this. I think you're extra too. I think we're ready to like give love, and and so I'm quite positive mostly. And my husband's a little bit more introverted and introspective. He kind of brings me down to earth, and so it's easy for me to be a kind of a 90% energy wise anyway. And then so he can kind of take on the 10%, especially the days he needs it.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And vice versa. Vice versa. I love that I can say to him, I'm feeling 10% today, and I'm going to be in bed.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yep.
But it took that. It took that strategy.
It does take whatever it takes,
Yeah.
right? I talk a lot about the more you're like in communication with each other, the more you can say without feeling a lot of shame. Is
Yeah.
that hey, I could really use, like, as a dad, you just feel instantly like guilty by saying, I could use a nap today. Or I could use a break today. When your wife has just delivered a baby out of her vagina, her body's completely changing. Like that is like so much intensity that you just forget about yourself or feel bad for asking for those things. So I always say to avoid the teeter-totter, right? Of like, I did this, you didn't do that. I've done all this week.
The scale.
Yeah, which is just an absolute nightmare. You just have to say, the first thing you say is there anything that you need right now today? Like, how are you doing? What do you need? You got any priorities? I'm really I feel like I have a hungry day, or I just need a big extra nap today. Say, cool, that's great. I'll make sure those things happen for you. And personally speaking, I could really use a nap today too. So when baby goes to have a feed with you and a nap, I'm going to hunker down and grab a nap. You cool with that? Cool. Great.
It's just talking about it.
Yeah, it's just talking about
Just
it.
saying it.
And it sounds easy, but
No,
if you're
it's
not
easy,
practiced at that,
Yeah.
that's what makes the lack of information difficult when you're going through it. If you know that it's going to be difficult to communicate and you practice while you're pregnant, and then the
Yeah.
baby's coming and you've got this routine of checking in and the 90%, 10%, whatever the way you like to do it,
Right.
then it's going to make the ongoing things a lot easier.
Yeah, I like that your approach is very preventative. Like,
Ooh,
let's
yeah.
prepare. This could happen. Because it's true, when we were just in bliss when we had our first child.
Sure.
And then we weren't quite prepared for the action and the live action of having a second child. And we had a lot of losses in between. So we ended up, we were a little bit older, less energy for a second. So there was no talk about, how are we going to deal with 2 kids? We're just going to wing it, right? We basically wung it, is that a word? And that ended up being, a little damaging. It was right from the onset, when, especially, it was the top of the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressures. And so not being prepared for that and just kind of winging it, that kind of added that extra pressure. And so without that conversation of like, can we keep this open?
I can feel the burnout from here. I mean, just, as another parent, right, I can just feel like man, I just know how hard that is, right? When you're like, especially 2 kids. I always joke, when you have 1 kid that you can be 10 minutes late, 2 kids you can be 20 minutes late. And if you have 3 kids, you just come whenever you want to come. People are like, oh, sweet, it's great, you made it. That's awesome.
Apparently I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Then.
And so
I'm always late.
Yeah, we always put so much pressure on ourselves just in general. And with kids, you got to just find ways to like just not feel the pressure.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself if you're there late. All my clothes have stains on them now. I don't even care anymore. Like, that's just the way it is. You just have to. People always want to have a baby and stay the status quo.
Oh,
right?
that's
I want to
the
keep working
problem.
out just as much. I want to keep doing this just as much. I want to do this. But you have to accept that there is change coming.
Yes.
Prepare yourself for that change.
Yeah.
So that you can make it positive.
You're so right. Like, it just really, just keeping it real with yourself. Like, we are not going to be the same size. We're not going to be doing the same things. We're not going to be available socially.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Sure.
And I think that expectation of like, no, we can keep this going.
No.
That's really damaging.
People do it in a whole bunch of different ways. I have a great friend of mine, and I love how he said that he called me up. He's like, we're gonna have the baby right away, so I'll talk to you in 3 months. And I was like, what? He's like, I need 100 days to like sort this out, because he's just like an organized kind of guy. He's like, I want to know how this all works. And
Wow.
because that's him trying to be preventative, right?
Right,
But when you don't
right.
have any information, that's what his method of coping was like. I'm taking 3 months off the world to
Wow.
figure it out. But yeah, if you have information from the beginning,
Yes.
it makes burnout, it makes the tireds, it makes any sort of situation you bump up against at least a lot more bearable.
Yeah, it eases the load a little bit too, and especially expecting it too. Just gonna, like, I realize
coming.
there's gonna be some tough burnout days, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it kind of slapped me in the face. I wasn't prepared for it.
Of course. And it
Yeah.
can be sneaky, right? It can really just be we all play the tough guy, and then all of a sudden you're broken down. You're like, where'd it come from?
Ugh.
And it's so hard to reverse that. Right? How do
Yeah.
you start getting an extra rest if your lifestyle you've built around this one framework, right, of being extra busy and trying to do everything you always did before and not
Right.
communicating. That's the world you live in now. So to
Yeah.
go back and replace all those things takes even extra effort. So
It's better to be prepared.
sure is, man. Boy Scout.
Now, we're at a point here, like, let's say in a situation like me, I'm an older parent. I discovered the great Graham Meckling, years into my parenthood journey. I do like how your book, just like how I read, there's some very, realistic strategies there and suggestions that can be implemented like today.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I'm really excited to give this to my husband because I wouldn't mind it. Okay, so let's talk about this 30-second hug.
Sure.
Okay, that is so awkward. I'm going to tell you, I love hugging my husband. Like, we can hug like
Yeah.
crazy, no one's business. But after a fight or disagreement, a hug?
I know it's tricky.
Dude.
I think it's almost like, granted, it's extremely hard, which sounds funny, right? Hard to hug your partner.
It does sound fun. But after a fight, like when you're living in the moment, it's
Yeah, it's
kind of the last thing you want to do, right?
I think that's it. It's just a perspective of that. Like, most of the times when you're going through, like, you've just had a baby, right?
Yeah.
Your world is spinning. Your head is spinning. Your
Yeah.
emotions are completely out of whack.
Yeah.
You fight over the 2 cartons of milk that are open, even though it's just you need a nap, right?
Yes.
And so it's just like almost more of like a way just to stop and like look at each other
Yep.
and be like, okay, it's okay here. Like,
I
we're
got
we're
you.
not really that mad. Come give me a hug. It doesn't have to be for 30 seconds. It's just the principle
But I do
of.
like numbers, so you know
Yeah.
me. I'm going to be counting 30. He's just
you-
going to be like, wait, can you like go now? This
And
is getting
sometimes
awkward.
good things happen after a 30-second hug, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's been nice to touch your body again. We've
Oh,
been
yeah.
ships in the wind for a while.
That's
so
right.
just ways to help you realize that the world is not falling in on you.
Yeah.
Your wife is not the problem. The baby's not the problem. You're not the
Mm-hmm.
problem. It's just a difficult situation to go through. And that's why the book's called Babies Don't Talk, because the baby's never really the problem.
Yeah.
It's just your communication is tough, your energy's low. And so just realizing that there's just different frameworks you have to put together to make
Yeah.
it successful.
No, you're right. At the end of the book is when we really can start talking about the baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's the baby coming in the picture? It was always about like husband, wife, partner. I love that, not that the baby's an afterthought or the child's an afterthought. It's just, we always think when there's problems that arise in parenting. I mean, I don't sit there and blame my kids overtly.
Of course.
But we all kind of joke about, they're getting to this and the mess they made and they're giving me attitude. But a lot of times I feel like when I regulate myself or when I check in with myself, miraculously, it's like voodoo magic.
Yeah.
They, in turn, are also quite regulated.
Yeah, totally.
So it has nothing to do essentially with them. At the end of the day, I'm kind of thinking, well, it does, yes.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm checking with myself and checking with my feelings. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So it usually is the bigger picture. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm feeling a little isolated. I feel a little lonely. I feel like maybe I'm a little envious when I'm seeing them giggling and playing games with dad, fun guy, and I'm just like, Cinderella.
Yeah,
And I'm
sure,
like,
sure.
I'm like cleaning the floors. And then my husband's like, because he's super chill and he's
Yeah.
very supportive at home, washes the
Yeah.
dishes, he does his thing. But he's not as like, he's not as like boom, boom, boom as I am. He's very
Sure.
like, I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna, I'm gonna water the plants, and then we're gonna play horsey
Yeah.
in 2 minutes. And there's a lot of that back and forth. I'm like, let's just get it done. But that mindset has kind of bitten me in the back because they're having fun and I'm sitting there. And then what sets me off? That Lego I stepped on.
Sure.
I'm like,
yeah.
how about this? And I'm not even a screamer, but burnout has
Sure.
introduced this skill. I'm like,
Oh,
I did not know I was
I
capable of
always
that.
joke. I never raised my voice my entire life. And then then you have kids and you're like, well, I didn't know I'd ever yell like that. It's like almost like
Yeah.
shameful. But it's so just to hear you say that, right? It's just so true that it's the happy parents, like happy you, happy
Yeah.
your partner, happy parents equals happy baby. Like
It
every time,
does.
And my favorite analogy of parenting was I remember holding Weston, my son. He was a brand new baby. It was middle of the night, like 3 a.m. or whatever. And I had him on my shoulder and he's crying that baby scream that goes like into your bones, right? And it's just like the worst. It's like a nightmare scream that you
I have
just
a physical
you don't know what to do.
reaction to it,
Yeah.
yes.
And I'm patting him and I'm trying to tough it out. I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, no, I don't. I'm freaking out. And
Yeah.
your body starts shaking. And then I was like, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And I put him down. I went to my bedside table, got an earplug, put it in my ear,
Right.
picked him back up, and then I was like, oh, like I just took care of myself first, right? I call it the airplane method.
I
Put
love
the
the
oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yes.
And then it wasn't so much that, because instantly he went to sleep. And I was like, what? And I'm like, oh, yeah, because I calmed down,
Isn't that
right?
so
I was just like
interesting?
chilled out just a little bit. And he's like, oh, my
Yes.
dad's calm. My environment's calm now. Oh, I can go to sleep now. Cool. So it's really just taking the perspective of if you're
They feel
starving and you're really
us.
hungry and you're
Yeah.
grumpy, put the baby down and make yourself a sandwich and then go back and then take care of your baby. An extra
Right.
5 seconds of crying is not going to change the baby's life, but
Yeah.
it might change your relationship quite a bit.
You know what's funny? That martyrdom of like, no, I'm not going to eat. Cinderella, Cinderella.
Yeah.
That kind of attitude of like,
Yeah.
you brought me to this place.
Yeah.
But really, that was our choice. This little 2-month-old is not going to go
Yeah.
like, yes, they're going to cry and yes, their needs need to be met, of course. But it's so true that we could put that earplug
Yeah.
on or in. And there's so many out, available that you could just
Totally.
do the different ones or even just, that's kind of what, it's so funny because this is something I was bitter about with my husband. He'd come home and I don't know why I'd be bitter. And I'm going to talk to you about this because this is a little conundrum that I found myself in. And if we're talking about the me versus you scale thing, we'll talk about this in 1 second. But I just wanted to say that something that weirdly triggered me is my husband would come home from work and he'd say his hellos, he'd take off his bag and stuff like that. He'd let out a sigh. He'd start his little oatmeal. Like he does this thing, he puts some protein powder. It's very cute. He's got this regimen, but by then I'm spent. I'm like, get over here, grab the kids, and I'm walking out here.
Yeah.
Like some days. This hasn't happened lately though. Things have changed. But he'd go and he starts washing the dishes. And he puts on his little AirPods on because he likes to listen to his little, whatever they're called. I don't know what. Is it the X or I don't know, his podcast, whatever. He puts it on and then he kind of tunes out, which that was always offensive to me, right? And so we've talked about that since. But he actually said that. He's like, this is my self-care, baby. Like, I need to decompress and I need to help because it's overwhelming. Now, he does it for me, but he also does it for him. He does not want to, look at a sink full of dishes, but I've been running around driving my parents, taking care of appointments. And so I'm not physically home. So what kicks into my head is he's trying to prove to me that I'm not a good mom by being the hero that
moms.
comes in, right?
Yeah.
And that has crept into my mind a few times.
Sure.
And I sat there, I'm like, why am I mad at my husband for doing the dishes? Okay, then I thought, why am I mad at him for putting the AirPods on? Why am I mad at him that he's not talking? And then I realized kind of what you said. I kind of need a nap right now. He needs to decompress when he comes home from work. And I think there's a lot of kind of blame that's placed on not always the man. Let's not talk about it. It's not always the dad, but the partner that works outside of the home.
Sure. Yep.
So whoever that is, they come home and they're exhausted. And you're like, oh, how dare you be exhausted? I've just been wiping butts all day. I've been feeding. I've been fighting people. And blah, blah, blah. I've been a referee all day. I'm exhausted. How dare you come home and decompress? But we found a solution. Part of that solution is let's decompress together. Now, what's funny is that he puts on one AirPod now. So we've compromised.
Okay.
So he can still hear me. I'm saying the things because I need to unload. I need to say my things. And then he hears me. He listens. And then he nods his head. And sometimes I'm like, are you listening? Did you hear me? And then he reiterates what I said.
Yeah.
What he needed that moment was to just not talk, not think. He'll receive me because I need to let it out.
Yeah.
Like vomit.
Do a good brain dump. Yeah.
Yeah, a little good old-fashioned brain dump. And then he just, and then he's equipped to go to the next, step. So we've kind of understood that this is our love language to ourselves without the guilt. So let me talk to you about the one thing that has been a source of confusion for me. So we all know we live in the times of scrolling, doom scrolling, And so when I'm in burnout, and I'm happy to report I'm kind of exiting this phase of burnout. I really feel it. But the burnout that I felt at the onset, a lot of it was exacerbated by the things I saw online. Because we all know my phone listens to me, right? Our phones listen to us. And I would be saying things either to a friend or to myself out loud, or I'd be thinking it. For some reason, my phone would understand this. And I'd also say to my husband. I feel like, I'm doing everything right.
Yep.
Right. And so all of a sudden, this this buzzword default parenting comes, into my algorithm. Now, I do believe in many households there are default parents. I am a default parent in the sense that I am the one that the teacher calls when there's an issue. I
Yeah.
am the one for appointments. I am the one that the kids kind of go to first. I
Sure.
am the default parent to some degree. Um, and I'm also physically there, in all fairness,
Yep.
more than he is. So there's that. But there is a lot of extreme viewpoints online. And it's just been kind of taking over my algorithm. And
Yeah.
it's like, it is very us against them, very me versus you.
Yeah.
And it breaks my
It
heart,
does.
but it actually makes me more angry
Yeah.
at him.
Sure. Because, and that's in this day and age, because we have the answers for the problems on the surface, right? The day-to-day problems, like
Yeah.
hey, I feel this today. You go online to search it out, and there'll be someone there that doesn't have the problem or has the cure for that one specific problem.
Yeah.
But what they don't know is that they're not you. They're not your husband. They're not your
Yeah.
partners. They're not your life that you're living with, taking care of parents and all the other responsibilities you have. So it may be easy for them to show you what this one answer is, right? And then we go, oh, okay, well, how come I can't put that one answer into my life? Well, that's just one thing. You have to stop and go, okay,
Big picture.
yeah, I'm gonna step back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do I really need here? Oh, I haven't really communicated with my partner that when he comes home, I need that time too. Like, how are we gonna
Yeah.
split that time when you get home?
Yeah.
As simply as my wife and I had this thing we used to call like I'm out, right? Where because I was home with the kids, like when my restaurants are open in the evening, so I might be home with the kids while she was at work, and then or sometimes with the baby, they would come home and we got to say to each other, I'm out. And they go, okay, cool. They just know that your brain's frazzled, you're maxed out. And then
Nice.
you don't have to talk about why you're
2
sore.
words. I'm out.
I'm out. You don't have to talk about your problems or what happened. You just need some time to get out of the house. And
Yes.
you'd be amazed at how fast the intensity of a parent when you are maxed out because your baby is screaming or fussing or crying
Yeah.
all day, and you feel like you can't even do anything. Like you're at zero. You
Yeah.
go outside for a 1 minute walk around the building, and
Totally.
all of a sudden your heart is calm, and you can't wait to get back in there and grab that baby. It's just I always joke because we live in Victoria that sometimes you love your baby like it's the most precious, beautiful thing,
Yes.
and then 1 minute you want to kick it into the gorge and be like, I don't ever want to see you again, and you feel this crazy guilt and
Yeah, you
mums,
feel the guilt, yeah.
and mums. I promise you will always they have a special bond that dads, no matter what we try to do in the beginning,
Yes,
will never come
physical.
close to
Yeah.
the love and the compassion, which is why mom guilt is such a real thing,
It
because
is.
you just feel like you can never be enough, even
Yeah.
though you guys are infinitely, you put us to shame no matter what we try and do. So
Oh.
I think it's just, uh, as much as I would love to say to moms, take the weight off your shoulders, I know that
It'll be
it's
there.
not going to happen. You're going to
Yeah.
always do that. So just remember that your partner is there to share that load, to say,
Yeah.
and the more you communicate about what you need, just makes it easier and not harder. And you'll get more time to yourself when the dad feels comfortable doing things, being a part of it,
Yeah.
having confidence in himself. So I think burnout is tricky. Going online for answers is tricky because you're not solving the big problem. You're just solving the Band-Aids. So just
Like
happy
TikTok
partners.
therapy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds so frightening.
Isn't it
Yeah.
frightening?
Just ask your partner to tell your partner what you're going through,
Yes.
and if you start off that way,
Yeah.
it's gonna be way easier. And if you're not there, if you started your relationship or your pregnancy journey or your birthing journey a different way, and you're finding you have trouble, just go back to the basics and then
Yeah.
slowly try to incorporate them. Even just having 20 minutes a day before you go to bed to have a small checklist of like, what did you learn from the baby today? Oh, I learned when I bounce them a little tiny bit and then put them down, it's easier. Or I shake them this way, or I do
I love that.
whatever your move is.
Yeah.
Teach, and you'll just get so much faster being a
Yeah,
great
the
parent.
back and forth, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is something I tried and it
And 'cause
worked.
dads feel really guilty about if they're being sort of like the push to the outside dad. They'll feel bad saying that, hey, I fed him the peas before the carrots and it worked.
And it worked.
Because mom's doing everything right. So
Oh.
the more you're even, Steven, or at least you feel that way
Yeah.
emotionally, then it's just going to make the forward progress so much easier.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just, even the words sharing the load, that really takes away that pressure of I'm here and you're here.
Doesn't make you a bad mom.
Yeah,
To say, you know what,
exactly.
I can't handle all this on my own. Because you
Yes.
shouldn't. It takes a village,
Yeah.
takes a whole family to raise a baby.
It absolutely
Yeah.
takes a village. And I think, the big trigger word, and this is where I can agree, and there's a lot of, accounts out there that say things like, why do they say, how can I help you? I mean, it's words, right? But I think when it comes from this intention of, I want to support you, right?
Yeah.
But I think saying the word share is
Mm.
there's so much benefit to
Yeah.
that because you are truly sharing the load as partners as opposed to you're the leader, mom knows the answer, go to your mom,
Oof. Yeah.
that kind of thing. When it comes to the kids, you just again that default thing, a default to the mom, and you say that to your kids, and then so everybody just kind of goes, okay, mama answers. Or
Mm.
I think we were talking about how like when a husband answers a phone to
Oh, for appointments and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
appointments versus ultrasound, and then it's a thing when they say, "Oh, you don't have to come."
99.9, actually, no, sorry, 100% of the time, the doctors don't call and ask for dad. 100%. And,
Wow.
and so when you're going through that as the dad or the partner, right,
Yeah,
you, from the very beginning of pregnancy, you feel like you're on the outside and you don't know where to fit in. And it's
yeah,
not just you with some imaginary guilt or not knowing. It's that the system is set up that it takes care of the mom.
yeah.
And that's okay to a certain degree.
Sure, yeah,
But
yeah.
but men just have to know that it's not, or partners in general need to know it's not that hard to be involved. It's not that hard to stay on an even level with your wife as long as you're talking about what's happening. Like even
Absolutely.
though you're not breastfeeding, you can still know what she's going through. Like, oh, baby's having trouble latching. Oh, I know what latching means. So you can come home and say, hey, how did the latching go today? Oh, it was way
Oh,
better.
wow, just
So
even checking in on
yeah,
that.
so it
That's
doesn't mean I have to know all about what latching means or how breastfeeding works or
yeah,
all the ins and outs because maybe I don't have time to become a doctor, but I do
yeah.
know how to ask her what she's going through, and then I can
100%.
just come back in and check in on her.
It's funny. It's just kind of, I don't want to be too TMI over here, but when we first had my son, it was kind of an emergency situation, and I had to go away for, like, right after I gave birth to him, hemorrhage,
Yeah,
not a pretty sight, not fun, and so he became, and that's what they called it. They're like, he became mama. Why couldn't he just be dad, right? Like he
yeah,
just became.
sure.
But anyway, but the sweetness of it is that there was an immediate bond that the two of them had.
Mhm.
Um, because there was no choice. Although it's funny because he was like, there's a video where he says, "Oh, are you looking for mommy?" And he went like this. Like it was just
Yeah,
this reaction of this newborn. It's funny because we have such a connection, my son and I, my daughter and I too. But the cool thing about this whole, taking this, he had no choice. He had to take this role because
yeah,
I was not physically there and I wasn't there for a while. And so there was a lot of support coming in from the nurses, and
sure.
they're like, they gave him a VIP room because they're like, look at this dad who needs
Hmm.
support. And um, it was very sweet. It was extremely sweet. But what was really cool is that he was almost forced into a situation, right? It probably wouldn't have been his go-to, plan to be very much a part of
Yeah,
the feeding. I couldn't move. I was pretty much like, I had 4 pints of blood transfused. Like,
yeah,
let's not get too into the details, but I
sure.
was lying down. I was in different positions. I couldn't move. So he had to be the one who placed it. He had to place the baby, but he had to place, like, he had to do all the things with the syringe.
Yeah,
He
sure.
was part of the process,
Awesome.
just minus the nipple. I mean,
Yeah,
essentially, this guy was the breastfeeder. He was the mechanic behind all of it.
cool.
And that process was life changing
Yeah,
for our, for a coupledom because he was very much understanding how hard it is.
yeah, it is.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, parenting is as much as people talk about uh, like the scaring thing we're talking about, or just like how hard it is to be a parent, or
Yeah.
everyone talks about all these trials and tribulations you go through. There is for every dad out there who's a little nervous,
Yeah.
parenting is not just your baby crying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it does cry, it's
Mm-hmm.
also quiet and cuddles and feels
Yes.
on you and stares at you and is you. Like there's a million amazing moments of having a baby,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of amazing moments with your partner. It's not they're just lying in bed being cranky all day.
No.
But no, there's these moments where you cuddle together with this newborn, or you talk about like this going through the whole process. It's such a bonding thing, and it's
It
even more
is.
bonding when you're in it together. So don't don't let your nerves or your fear of the unknown
Yeah.
prevent you from just diving in there. I
Yeah.
think about my frame of reference for that one is just um, uh, when my wife was going to give birth. I didn't know. I thought it was going to be like ER is what I thought. I thought there'd be like 20 doctors in the room, all dressed in
Yeah.
blue, with a big drape between her and the
Yeah.
vagina, and I wasn't going to know what's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on. And then we were in this room. It was really small, and there's like two doctors. I'm like, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do some
Hollywood
pre-pushing," and I was
really
like, "Wait a
ruins it
sec."
for
No.
us, doesn't it?
I'm like, "Man, shouldn't there be like 12 more of you guys here?"
Yeah.
And then, and then I went from not wanting to see the birth to I kind of wanted to see the birth, and then I was like, "Wait, can I take the baby out?"
Yeah.
Because
Get me in there.
you just realize that these are moments that are never gonna happen again. They're gonna pass you
Yes.
by,
Oh, I
and the
love that.
more that you can get connected, the more that you can
Yeah.
do that, then the better. I think I
It's
also
life-changing.
started from I didn't want to know the sex of the baby. I thought it was life's great big surprise. I was
Yeah,
always
yeah.
kind of like righteous about it. And then
I
as
do
we were
the
going
same.
through pregnancy, I was like, I felt so disconnected. We kept calling it the baby.
Wait, so you didn't know and she knew, or
No,
you
no,
both
we
didn't
both
know?
didn't know.
Okay.
But then I was like, man, it keeps calling it the baby or it when it's ready. And I'm like, man, if it's my baby girl in there, I want to know it's my princess and I can start getting excited. Or if it's my
Yes.
baby boy, I want to know. So I was like, no, I
Yeah.
do want to know because I want to get more connected. And then we did the big baby reveal. It was awesome. We
Oh,
had
yeah.
and it's so do whatever you can to get connected. It's fun. It's super fun.
So you did it. You did the baby reveal, obviously, like near the end of the pregnancy, kind
Kind
of
of right in
thing,
the
or-
middle. We had
Oh,
we
nice.
had like the cake in the middle that's cut right blue inside or pink
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
And we had a bunch of laptops because my family lives all over and so did hers.
Oh, I
And
love
we had a
that.
bunch of friends over and we were like, okay, ready, 3, 2, 1. And then we
Yeah.
had a bottle of champagne we popped and it's a boy was the first one. And you're just like, oh, you just feel this
Ah.
immediate connection, right? This
Yes,
immediate
that
thing.
makes
So
such a difference, doesn't it?
yeah, if you're a dad and you're feeling like no one's connecting you to the process, just be the one that plugs in. Just go over there and just get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that initiation,
Yeah.
and like or initiative, and just go in there and say, I want to see him come out.
Yeah, what's going on? What's happening?
I love that.
It's your baby. It's exactly as much your baby as hers.
Yes,
It's so
50-50.
even
Come
though she's
on.
carrying it, man, you guys are in it together.
It's funny because my husband always teases like, because my daughter looks exactly like my husband. She's literally the mini me of him. And I'm like, gosh, like there's no sign of me in her. And he goes, you got to carry her. Like, give me something. That's what he always says. Give me something. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but no one knows about that. That's 9 months. You get like the entire life of like, oh, she looks like daddy. Oh my goodness. So, but luckily, my son, it's just by some miracle, he looks like mama or acts like mama. He's just really my mini me too. So it's
Yeah.
really nice to have that bond.
Sure.
And I think it's a decision, a choice you have to make as the parent, as the dad, as the mom. And I think where I can, or where moms can, or the primary caregiver can be of support is to nurture that relationship between dad and kids,
Sure.
and not play the good cop, bad cop, and refuting like the default, like saying, mom will have the answer to that. Oh, leave it to me. Invite dad to say,
Yeah.
hey, why don't you? And I've actually been doing that. I'm like, the other day, he hates making lunches. I do too.
the
We both hate
lunches,
it. Like,
yeah.
if we could just have someone come in and make lunches for my kids, I'd be a better mom. I say that all the
Yeah,
time.
I know lunches are the devil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when I'm done, I feel really good. I'm like a chef. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I came up with this. I feel, but dreading it. Anyway, so this is a kind of a work in progress. And every so often I'll say, hey, did you make the lunch? He's like, me? Like, no. And then he's been avoiding it like the plague. But one of these days, I'm going to just not make the lunch.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'm not going to make the lunch. But I'm also going to say, try it. I bet you
Yeah.
won't hate it as much as because I think it's okay to say we can share this, right?
Yeah.
We can do this. But I think the enabling,
Yeah.
and this is another thing. When I had my daughter, I had this little book that my best friends gave me, and it said, words of, kind of like Babies Don't Talk, but
Yeah.
for girls, and it was a personalized one with all their pictures. And one piece of advice that really just, to this day, it really is something that I'll always remember. She said, let him figure out his own way. Let go, mama.
Yeah.
Like, you are going to have you're going to have your ways of doing things. Let him figure it out as well. And I know it's not exactly in line with teaching each other,
Sure.
like, hey, try this method, blah, blah. But I mean, in general, letting go of my way, mom's way, the right way, and then just letting him kind of do his thing.
Yeah, it's sort of the same way. I think it just comes from taking the pressure off your shoulders to do
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
There's no there's no perfect mom. There's no perfect dad.
Yeah.
They don't exist. That's why no one comes to your house with a medal and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
congratulations, you're number one dad today." That's why there's no greatest dad show on earth on TV because they don't happen, right? We all make tons of mistakes. Like
Yeah.
everyone has tons of flaws. There's a
Right.
million things that I'll find out 20 years from now I did totally wrong for my kids, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And if you just take the pressure off of and moms especially, you almost have to practice the ability to let go as a mom, right? Because you're so connected, you're so committed to your kids that just saying, okay, you know what? I'll let you take this piece on, because you probably don't even want to let it go. Like as much as like you might cry every day doing lunches, there's someone else to do it. You'd be like, I want to keep crying doing lunches because I know that my kids, so it's just, it's, you have to be able to be a partnership, be a team.
Absolutely.
And the more team you are, the happier your baby will be. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because you'll be a happier person. Happier relationship is a great thing to be in.
Yeah.
And one that you fight all the time and disagree and don't communicate is the pits.
Well, let's talk about communication. How about, I know there's a lot of, in your book, and when we talk, we do talk about communication. You're a very, highly communicative person. I can sense you're my people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sure.
Well, my husband, more introspective, a little bit quieter. And like I said, he wants to decompress at the end of the night. How do we navigate, let's say we want to talk about it, we have to talk about it, but he doesn't want to talk right now.
Yep.
I kind of want to give him like grace, respect, and honor. This is his style. It's like he needs a little break, but how do we do that? Like, it's not going to be exactly back and
it's
forth.
tricky. It's tricky to, I always say, because I don't know people personally, right? It's tough to sort of say like what you should or shouldn't do in your own relationship. But I think you have to say to each other, we need to find a way to have daily communication.
Yeah.
Like, what is that going to be in our world? How's it going to work with us? Okay, well, it can't be at night because I decompress. It can't be at night when I get home because that's when I do this. And for you, it can't be right in the morning because that's when you need your coffee and you need your routine. Where is it going to go? But it has to go somewhere. You have to have 5 minutes a day just to say like, what's your number scale today? Or 5 minutes today to say that. If you just have that one moment that you can bank on to be like, that's when we're going to connect and do it, then great. I say at the end of the night is usually the safest for most people. They're both going, but sometimes you're right. When you're tired and going to bed, you'll start to say things like, can we just do it till tomorrow? And then you're like, no. If you just make it 1 minute, even 1 minute, 60 seconds of conversation, it's quite a bit. Did the baby do something different today? Did you do a move that worked? Okay, cool. How are you feeling today? Do you think you're going to need some things for this week? What should we try out? Cool, this is what I need. Awesome. Okay, hug it up. Let's go. It doesn't have to be long and intense, but it has to happen though.
Yeah, the check-in has to happen.
It has to happen. If you want to make good strides, big strides in parenting, big strides in relationship, you have to commit to communication. I mean, that's what makes all great relationships great and all bad ones usually pretty bad, is that you just don't talk about how you're feeling.
Don't talk.
And it happens really fast too, right? It's really easy to get in those roles. My wife and I are ships in the wind, right? Like we do a lot more high-fiving than hugging. As she would come, I would go. Like that's sort of how we joke that we're we're single parents, living together. But we communicate all the time because and when you do, you become more connected to that thing you're doing. We didn't know because we had Labradors when we first got together.
Yeah.
So we basically parented this puppy, right? And we were lucky because labs love training and parenting. We found our own styles together, right? Like that the more you commit to something together, the faster you'll see the results. If you're trying to train your dog to sit and she does it one way and I do it the other way, it's just going to be so hard.
Yeah.
But if we both do it the same way all the time, it becomes easier so much faster. And in a positive, great way. Like, oh my gosh, she's sitting. Look how fast that was. Instead of, he sat today. Didn't say, oh, man, I thought you were doing it this way.
Oh gosh.
Just getting on the same page
is
makes so many things go by easier.
It's true. I think like even that dialogue, whatever style that might be, I love that you say like to kind of put aside, a specific, almost scheduling it. And like sometimes, and you have this in your book as well, that there's a freedom to planning, right? A little freedom to like knowing when you can expect this conversation.
That's how you get free time.
Yeah.
Scheduling your time is free time.
Yeah, scheduling your time. And I'm terrible. I have about 80 day planners because I have ADHD. I'm like, oh, I need this one. This one's cute. I have about 80 of them. They're in a high stack. And none of them, they're just like all brand new. Or, just pretty. And I realized I don't schedule enough. I don't do it the right way. And I finally figured out my system. And now we have a system as a family. And I'm letting him in, and we're
Yeah.
a team with them. I've noticed that we now have a dialogue. We now have a system. We found the right time. I don't bug him right when he walks in the door right
Sounds
away.
awesome.
He doesn't ask me a very, very profound question while I'm rushing the kids out the door in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, we've really found that dance.
That's awesome.
And you're right, it's about maybe 5 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes it's over watching Bachelor. And yes, I do get him watching Bachelor. But their connection is so strong that even in the midst of this burnout, we still have we're still parenting.
Yeah.
We still have transition difficulties with our kids, right? We still have the same kind of issues, but the burnout seems to be lifted because we're talking about it. We're giving strategies. It's wonderful.
It's hugging your problems instead of yelling at your problems.
Yeah.
You know, no problem ever got fixed by just making it worse, right? We fix problems by
Or
trying to make
ignoring
them
it.
better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I love that. So I love having that, I love having that common ground. I love having that dialogue. I love finding that sweet spot.
A framework for communication.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about communication quite a bit. So let's take off your author hat. Let's put your coach hat on. TRUEDAD.CA. Okay, online community. You are a community, builder. You're an advocate. So take us through the process. Like, do you deal with dads right off the bat, or?
Well, I think it says True Dad because I think that's where an important focus is on building a stronger family unit.
Okay.
Right, but 100%, no great family unit is going to be helped out by focusing on one or the other.
Right.
Where internet can be a big thing for starting this off, right? Where we just look at our problems on the internet, trying to fix our problems, right?
Right.
But I think if you want to be great parents, then it has to be great parents. You can't just make the dad's awesome and then not talking to the mom. Like, the mom has to be involved with what you do. And with what I do with True Dad is, the very first conversation I have with anybody is with both parents. So
okay, so you start off with both.
yeah, it has to happen, right?
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking about building trust, building communication, talking to each other, you have to talk to both parents. You have to know that this dad isn't sneaking off doing a bunch of wife bashing on the side, right? We need to know
and vice
that.
versa.
Yeah, vice versa, right?
Yeah,
This is a place where you're building great relationships. You're building great, interpersonal skills. You're building your confidence as a parent, and you can't do that just one at a time. You have
No,
to
you're
both be
right.
involved.
Yeah.
And the more involved you are together, the more fun it becomes together.
Right.
And often in life, we just try to fix and talk about the problems, and we don't celebrate all the beautiful wins, all the beautiful success stories.
So right, we don't.
Like, man, the first time that I fed my baby by myself and my wife, and just to let you know, your wife has to be out of the room in case no dads know that, because otherwise the baby will just smell mom and be like, nope.
Yeah.
But the first time I did it, right, I felt this huge feeling of like, man, yes, like I just did this. This is the best thing ever, and I had no one to talk to, and you're like, man, I want to celebrate this like milestone achievement, But so that's what it is. It's about doing a lot of celebrating. You do a lot more paying attention to what you do well, so you can keep doing it, versus just talking about the things that grind your gears. So
You're so right. I think there's just that negative speak, like we're just constantly complaining.
Oh,
and it's
man.
okay to vent.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely, the brain dump is wonderful, but you're right. There is less kind of celebrating. There's some tips and tricks that I've been kind of implementing in my own brain for our household. We've got a preteen, she's a teenager now, essentially, and we have a 6-year-old. And there are things we want to navigate, and it is very much similar to that, where I'm like, oh my gosh, this was such a good thing that happened.
Yeah.
And the bonus is that I talked about a win. I've been doing it lately, and not even intentionally, but I'll be doing this, and I'll be talking to my husband like, oh my gosh, she did this, and then this happened, blah, blah, blah. And it empowered my daughter, and you could tell there was a switch, because she's like, I caught them talking about me in a good way. And it's a
Yeah.
very nice positive experience for everyone involved, instead of like this constant complaining. But those happen too, sure.
Happens too, sure. But you'd be surprised by how many times, like from just training people in restaurants, I'd always say, like, I'm gonna watch you work today, but don't worry, I'm gonna spend just as much time focusing on the things you do great and the things that as much as the things you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe you're saying the same thing to or to just a few guests.
Yeah.
But it's really beautiful. It comes across really great. It's really really shows your knowledge. But if you don't know you're doing it, you're just not going to keep doing it.
Right.
And that's one of the real keys about communicating and parenting is the more you each know the things that are working,
Yes.
then you can keep doing those things that are working.
Positive
It
reinforcement.
speeds up being a good parent so fast
Yeah.
without doing any extra work. Like you don't have
It's
to do more
so
work.
easy. If you just
Yeah.
really think about it, it's so
Yeah.
easy.
And then you get to celebrate that with your kids.
Yeah.
But I don't want to jump too far in talking about kids because I think it's a whole different world. But I think celebrating with your kids the positive things,
Yeah.
celebrating effort, celebrating their victories with them as well, instead of just focusing on you're supposed to be going to bed now, or you
Fix
didn't
this,
do this,
fix
or didn't do
this.
that.
Yeah.
Man, let them know that you're just as excited for the good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even more so. Yeah.
And what's ironic is that as we focus on the good things, we start to see less and less of the negative things or the things that they need improvement on, because they naturally, with this autonomy, with this trust, with this, with this lifting up.
Yeah.
I think any human would rather be lifted up than reminded of what they need to be.
You're not going to raise a perfect kid. There's no way.
Yeah.
Because am I perfect? No. Are you perfect? No.
Yeah,
No one
yeah,
is. So don't just get off of that whole perfect. Doesn't exist at all.
I don't even
right?
like saying the word perfect.
It's gross. Just try and
it
live
is
your
pretty
life as a
gross.
good person. Treat your kids great. Talk to each other. It's not complicated, but it just takes some practice. It takes practice to talk all the time. It takes practice to hug lots. It takes practice to share your feelings as a guy. It takes practice for your partner to receive it and have empathy for you after they just went through birth. So there's a lot of, it's tricky, but fundamentally, it's not complicated science.
It's true. If you really break it down, it's actually simple.
Boy, if you just hug for like 10 times a day, everything will go way better.
They say that I don't know where I saw this quote, but I mean, I've seen it several times. You're supposed to hug 8 times a day or 10 times a day or whatever. It's just a nice little number. I always get stuck with numbers, but just so that you remind yourself that there's a connection. It's just a physical kind of promise to your loved ones. And just having in the back of my head, it's so easy to see my kids go into the fridge and grab a snack, and you just again, ships in the wind, right? Or in the night. What's the saying?
Ships in the wind.
Ships in the wind, ships in the night. And there's a little bit of that happens, especially with the ones that we love. And it doesn't have to happen at the goodbye or the hello, but also just in the middle of the day. That it's just so healing, right?
Yeah,
just that
it feels
physical
great.
connection.
Yep.
I love it. So, I mean, my next question was how does this differ from let's say family therapy or couples therapy? It's not the same, but there is some similarities.
Well, I think
service.
on the online world, it's we want to label people with what they can and can't do, right?
Yeah.
But I think, as we know, it doesn't apply to everyone, but my whole life I've just been coaching and training and teaching people. That's just what I've been doing. And I think when it comes to this, I'm very aware of what my role is. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, right? But what I am is someone that loves talking about parenting, loves talking about the fundamentals, because they apply to everybody. Doesn't matter. So, and I don't stream out of that, right? I'm not here to tell you how to raise your children, because I'm not you. I'm not in your family circle.
Right.
I don't know your other influences in your life.
You're right.
So how could I possibly tell you how to raise your kids? I can't. But
so you're not therapizing.
No, but I most certainly can tell you
Yeah.
that these things will happen to everybody. Here's some great tools that work for everybody to make them better. And then just the more we talk about being parents with other parents is just a great thing. And so I think it's not about counseling or teaching what you're doing wrong all the time. It's if you can get coaching or talking or training or teaching from anyone when you first find out you're pregnant, like day one,
Yes.
it just it takes the stress that you don't need to have away, and lets you really focus on how beautiful it's going to be instead of how hard it's going to be and you don't know anything.
100%.
That's all I wish.
Graham 13 years ago.
Yeah, I just wish I had someone to say hey man, this is awkwardly hard. What am I supposed to be doing? And have someone say, oh, just check in on how she's doing, man.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Basics.
Yeah, or you can do those things.
You keep saying fundamentals, it's so true. It
all
is
that matter,
fundamentals, foundation, and it's easy. But I think if we just repeat it and believe it, and then just know it, if you implement it,
it does work. It really does. It's not it's not magic. It's not
No.
I'm not a witch doctor. I just know that if you
Right.
hug your partner, ask her how she's doing, and if she's doing the same to you, then life will get really, really good.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, I promise it will get really bad. It's not me guessing. If you don't talk to your partner, they don't talk to you. Things don't go well. And when you add a baby to that, that's when you're getting real tough, because
100%.
you will get tired, you will get stressed. It impacts every
Facts.
part of your life.
Right.
So the sooner you can get the fundamentals in place, the way better. And you can put them in there at any time you want. It might be a little bit harder, but you can still go back to
course.
that. But if you know someone who's having a baby, just tell them to make sure that they can be both together as involved and talk to each other.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
to really equip yourselves with
Yeah.
the knowledge. And so the community feel, so it's not really partners, it's partners and then the entire community has access
Yeah.
to each other?
So we do like it's like basically like big group online chats,
Oh,
right?
I
Like a
love
Zoom,
that.
right? So instead of just a whole bunch of two guys sitting around like texting or a little bit of like we talk about it. You got to talk about being a dad. So that's what we do. We just talk about your daily situations, things that happen to you.
Yeah.
Because giving advice as a parent is a tricky thing.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
because everyone's in a unique situation, right? So one thing that might just be obvious that worked for you, super simple, super obvious, you think would work for everybody, may
Sure.
not.
Oh, may not.
May not.
Okay.
But it may. And if it
Right.
does, if it does help one other person, then you've done a huge success.
That's right. That's
That
right.
you've just helped them avoid a sleepless night or a fight with their partner. So the more we just talk about it,
Yeah.
just the better. Like if you just talked about, if you're not really good with as like a mechanic, and you just start talking about cars with people all the time, you'll just by osmosis become pretty good at dealing with cars. You'll have
That's
heard about someone
true.
with brakes. You've heard about how to inflate a tire. It doesn't mean that you have to study all day long, but talking about it is really healthy. And talking about parenting, and if you do that once a week, and you just have like somewhere where you talk about how your week went, you'll
Yeah.
be surprised at how positive your week will stay. Because
100%.
you're not fighting your way through it. You're not trying to man up and do these things. You're trying to be a family unit, mom, dad, partners, together building great
I love
families.
that. It's
Yeah.
very, you can hold yourself accountable. Like, this is something I want to share,
Yeah.
next week, or someone's going to check in on me. I was talking to John and I was telling him about this. I can't wait to tell him what worked this week and,
Yeah.
or thank him for his advice because it did work. And I think that's a great community, turning to the community and dads or soon to be dads being able to know that they can turn to other dads.
Yeah. It can be
That's
very
awesome.
lonely and isolating for moms and dads. Just
Yeah.
because it's like not just because a woman has a baby and maybe
Yeah.
has more conversations about it growing up than men do, doesn't mean that it's going to be any easier for her, right? It's her first baby too, man.
100%.
So like, the
Yeah.
more everyone just talks about it, just the better.
I absolutely love
We
that.
don't do a lot of talking in this day and age. We do a lot of texting
We
or a lot of like,
do.
I'm looking for this one answer online instead of just talking about it.
And then we end up getting things that just trigger us, that make things
Yeah,
even worse,
even
that
worse.
divide us even more.
Just keep talking about it. Makes it fun.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
fun. We need
Yeah.
some like
It doesn't make it bad.
interaction.
People are going to have ups and downs, but talking about it is fun. It feels great to talk about being a parent.
I love
Like this feels
that.
so great. It feels so wonderful just to be like, oh yeah, because I don't have babies anymore. No, they're
Yeah.
6 or they're 8 and 5, right?
Yeah.
But just thinking about babies reminds me of all those moments. It feels so great. It reminds me of how far I've come with my babies, like all the work we put in.
It's so empowering to
and it's
remember
awesome.
that.
And you forget all the work you go through, and it's
Yeah.
important.
And it's good to check in too. And like I did that because there's so many times I just have that imposter syndrome. Like I just feel like, I'm like, did I do them right? Did I do her right? Did I do him right? And then I think back, like, we killed it. We killed it.
Yeah.
We survived it, but like we thrived.
It's awesome.
We
Yeah.
thrive just thinking back. And like sometimes you think it can't get any worse, and sometimes it does. And then you look back and you're like, oh gosh, if I only knew that that was the easy
Yeah.
easy point, right?
Yeah.
But I think like checking back and sharing stories and just
Sometimes,
Yeah.
you don't even notice that you're good at something until somebody else points
Yeah.
out how hard they have it. Like, man, I can't get my baby to do this, period. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh man, that was easy for me. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you'll just be naturally good at something as a parent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I just the other day we had a recording here, and one of the main guys here in the production team, we were setting up for the episode, and my daughter was here because I homeschool her, and we just had a moment, and I just kind of checked in with her, touched her hair, and we were just just the basic stuff that we do. That's just how we interact, and I turned around, I was ready to do my thing, and he looks at me, he goes, I love your relationship. Like he made a comment about our relationship. And I'm telling you, like that went deep.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell him this, but he'll know when he hears this.
That's awesome.
But it meant the world to hear someone say that they see where there is a gift in this relationship, because there's so many times I'm like, when the first thing I said, because it's so easy to self-deprecate, it really
Sure,
is.
yeah.
And so I was like, it's a work in progress. I downplayed it, but I felt really proud. I went to the car, we were holding hands, and I'm like, we do have a good relationship, bud.
It's awesome. Yeah. You
Yeah.
gotta take, man, parenting is
Community.
very hard. You get a good compliment. Like, always feel good about yourself.
Ugh.
It's so easy
Yeah.
to feel bad all the time
Take
because
it in.
people don't credit you. They don't see the magic that you do. They
Yeah.
don't see the time where you had a great opportunity to do something and you said, no, I got to be home with the kid,
Yeah.
those are like, there's so many wins that you do that go unnoticed as a parent that makes you feel
100%.
like you just always doubt if you're doing the right thing.
100%.
But man, fundamentally, babies don't need a whole lot. They need a little bit of
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
They need
yeah,
some
yeah.
cuddles, right? And they
Yeah.
need some sleep. And that's really all they need for like a couple of years. So like
Well,
in a couple of
even
months, they start talking to you about like, Dad, just to let you know, and I was a little cold last night. Can you turn the heat up? Wasn't that obvious? No, babies don't judge you for a long time. You're a
no.
perfect dad from day one, perfect
Oh,
mom
I
from
love
day
it.
one, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's why you got to celebrate it. Got to celebrate being parents, not hide from it, not feel the shame of the guilt
Oh,
of
it's a shame.
because it's an extremely hard job that no one talks about because it's
Well,
hard.
a lot of people who spend, time and stuff empowering each other. A lot of people do say, I did this. This is what I did.
Hmm.
You need help with this, or you need to do this, or we hear it that way.
Hmm.
That's another thing
Sure.
too. And I think that just kind of contributes to this isolation. Like I'm not doing, and I think this community feel that you're creating and you're building and you're encouraging is encouraging that lift of one
Yeah.
another, like lift
It
you up.
feels so
Lift you up.
good.
Yeah, and I
Feels
feel you,
good.
and I'm gonna have bad days too, and you're gonna have bad days, and we're
Hmm.
gonna lift each other up. I love
And the
that.
bad days are crushing. Just so
Yeah.
like as much as the great days are like this euphoria of like
Yes.
the day like I remember my son, I came up in the car and he ran down the stairs like a little 3-year-old, right, all the way to me. Like I was just like, what's happening? This is like the moment that you dream of. And then he grabbed me and hugged me and he said something. I can't remember the words and it breaks my heart. I don't remember because there's so many things kids say to you that you want to write down.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
he was like, "Oh, Dad, you made my heart feel funny," or something like that. And I went upstairs and hugged him. I put him down. I started like, honey, I'll be right back. Had this cry because you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm doing some things right, And then we
Yeah.
celebrated the moment together. But that's what I mean. There's as
You
much as
absorb that
parenting is a
moment.
crazy roller coaster of
It
highs
really
and downs. And
is.
when you're down, you feel terrible. And when
Yeah.
you're up, you don't feel as up as you should because no one's around to say great job. But we're really good at doing a lot of self pity, a lot of dumping on us. So
Yeah.
when you have
Yeah.
great moments, hug yourself, celebrate
Yeah.
with your partner. It's great. It's great.
I usually like to end things with like a recap. I feel like we have so much. Like there was so much there. But so I'll tell you what I got out of it. I've gotten so many things out of it, but some of my favorite take homes um, is the idea of the partnership and knowing that it doesn't have to be a me thing. I love that burnout does happen and it happens in all phases. So right
Yeah.
at the onset and later, right before the empty nesting
Never
years,
quits. Yeah.
we're definitely in between. I mean, in between because it really is. It's tough no matter how you slice it, but the unified front and having that support and knowing that we are in it together, that's a wonderful thing, and that's a good take home for me. And then also kind of teaching each other and setting each other up for success. I love that point too, and that takes away the me versus you situation. And also a big thing for me is the conflict resolution, knowing that stepping on that Lego piece or getting mad because you said this wrong, and knowing that there could be a story behind that, there could be suffering behind that needs to be uncovered. So being curious about each other, asking questions,
Yeah.
talking, having the dialogue. I have so many other things I could say, but do you have anything else to add? Any like
I
words
would
of
I
wisdom that you
would
want to
just
add?
say if I had like if someone's like says to me all the time like what's your biggest tip and stuff, and I don't like tips because tips don't mean anything to you when the
Right,
baby's
right,
screaming in your ear at 3 a.m. right?
right.
But I would just say the same thing when it comes to the fundamentals. It's like ask yourself how you're doing and be honest when you ask that question. Don't just sort of like, yeah, I'm all right. How am I really doing? And then go ask your partner, how are you really doing?
How
And
are
then
you really
yeah,
doing?
how are you really doing? Like, what's
Yeah,
really going on? And then how are we doing? How are we doing? We doing all right? And if you guys are doing great, then
yeah.
that's a great step. And then check in on the baby. How are we doing as parents? How are we doing with these things? Uh, because just talking to each other is going to make parenting easier. Not easy. It's not a
Not
blissful
easy, but
joke the whole
easier.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
But if
yeah.
you want to have a much better ride through it,
Yeah.
just talk. Just talk about it. And if there's things that you don't want to talk about because they make you uncomfortable, those are the things you should be saying. And
Yeah,
you can preface it
exactly.
with, I feel really awkward saying this, but blah. And you have to
Yeah,
have grace
let
for
it
each
out.
other
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she might say something to you that you don't like or hurts you. But if you get those things out, you just smooth your relationship
Yeah.
and you smooth the experience that you need to have space in your heart and in your life for the baby. And don't expect your life to be the same. You're changing it on purpose, and it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. I love that idea, the visual I had when you said that was just like taking that brain dumping, like this is I'm uncomfortable with this, but I got to say it. I got to say it, guys. And then putting all it into this like one burnout pot.
Yeah.
The family burnout pot. Like this is I don't like this, and I have my kids kind of dumping into that pot.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm very visual. I'm very numerical, right? So picturing that is very healing too, because like I'm not just carrying this big load on my back.
Yeah.
Hunched over,
Teammates,
Cinderella,
baby,
Cinderella.
teammates.
Yeah, teammates, man.
Just do it all
Go
together and it's be
fling.
great. Yeah.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. So where can our viewers and listeners find you?
Just TRUEDAD.CA. Super simple. On Instagram, it's TRUEDAD.community.
Okay.
But if you just want really honest, not salesy, not just what I think is right that you should do. If you just want to hear about true circumstances that happen in relationships and in the lifetime of babydom, that's a great place to go just to get some honest information.
I love that. And I love that your community is basically like not really in person, but like human version of your book. Like it really is just an extension of your book. A lot
Gotta
of that.
be. Yeah. Just talk about being a parent and it makes it way easier.
Yeah, I love that. So anyway, so our caregivers and our viewers, I'm really grateful to you for your perspective,
Thank you.
Graham.
Yeah.
And I know that there's so much that I got from this conversation. But definitely, I know our caregivers and our parents who are just going through this journey feeling alone. I kind of feel like I feel confident in saying you don't have to go through it alone. Whether it's your partner, whether it's your family, like if you're a single mama or a single dad and you need support, like you can absolutely lean. You don't have to do this.
Asking for
journey
help
alone.
makes you a superhero. Do it.
100%.
It doesn't make you bad. Yep.
We can continue to show up for our loved ones by showing up for ourselves. Now go get that sass, and we'll see you on the next episode of Sass and Small Talk. Bye. Oh my goodness. Gloria. I need my sass back.
Signing off. See ya, guys. Bye. Signing off. See ya. Bye.